Welcome back, lords and ladies. This video we are going to step away from the lore and look at some of the most powerful weapons that make the game easy mode. Now, first things first, if you're new to the channel or enjoy the content but still haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, like the video, and sit back as we look at some weapons in Elden Ring that makes your journey to becoming Elden Lord so much less of a headache. Now, this is my personal list from my experience in game, not just a copy of what does the most damage in a single hit like so many others clickbait with. The first weapon I'm going to show you, I would say is the most powerful weapon in the game, but given its cost to use it, it puts it at the bottom of this list. It is the Prince of Death's Staff. You'll see most people carrying Lusat's staff, which has been horribly mislabeled as the strongest staff in the game. At plus 10, Lusat's staff has a sorcery scaling of 413, with an S in intelligence scaling and C in strength. But at plus 25, and yes, that's regular smithing stones, this staff scales at an A in both faith and intelligence and a D in strength, which is why I say its cost to use puts it at the bottom. The actual required attributes aren't bad, at 18 intellect, 18 faith, and 6 strength, but to get the most out of it, you'll want to level high in both intelligence and faith, which, as you can see, at plus 25 with 80 points in both faith and intelligence, this bad boy has a sorcery scaling of 430 without the extra FP cost to use spells that Lusat's staff has. Now, at number 3, we have the Sword of Night and Flame, a favorite among a lot of hybrid builds and one of the surprisingly powerful weapons just on pure damage. This sword is the multi-tool of Elden Ring, scaling at a C in intelligence and faith, as well as an E in strength and dexterity. This sword pulls power from many different areas. It's perfectly viable as a weapon on its own without its skill. But this weapon boasts a unique skill, very powerful and very useful, especially for those in need of magic without the magic build. It does have a decent cost, needing 24 points into both faith and intelligence, but if you can wield it, this thing can carry you. Its skill using your light attack fires an Azure Comet that, while the range is much shorter than the regular spell, overall it hits harder than the actual spell. It's only a shame it can't be held to extend to a longer blast like the actual spell itself. And if you use the heavy attack with the skill, you get this flame blast that goes a short distance but a wide range and does very solid damage. Now, the next one on the list is already very popular. Yes, finally, it is the Rivers of Blood Katana. If you have not heard of this weapon, then I'm not sure we're playing the same game. The Katana already is one of the top weapons with its speed and control of attacks, and most of them coming with a natural bleed buildup. The Rivers of Blood is special for its ash that just shreds enemies. If it can bleed, this sword will destroy it. Its ash has a 3-part attack, but just a roll and quick hit of the first 2 slashes repeated over will quickly melt any enemy weak to bleed status effect. Pair this sword with an incantation like the Bloodfly Swarm, and you will quickly see the toughest enemies erased. Upgraded to max, this sword is strong enough to be usable even against enemies that don't bleed. It's great for bosses and even better for PvP, shredding other players in one fell swoop. At plus 10, this weapon scales at a B in dexterity, D in arcane, and an E in strength. Now finally, at number 1, we have my personal favorite for getting out of a tough spot. This is a weapon that, even against creatures resistant to it, is absolutely unfair. The Blasphemous Blade. You get this blade after defeating Rykard from his remembrance, and this thing hits for big damage. as well as having a passive effect that heals you with every enemy defeated. At plus 10, it scales at a C in both strength and dexterity, and gets a solid B in faith scaling. You can see here the number on it at plus 10 with just the stats I have set for the Prince of Death Staff. But that is the least of its perks. Forget about healing from each enemy defeated. This sword has an incredible weapon art, Taker's Flame. With each hit of its ash, this weapon will heal you, and not just for a small amount, but for 20% of your health per hit. That's insane when you think about that at 2,000 health, this sword's ash will heal you for 400 each hit, and can be spammed over and over as long as you have FP. You can see here just how helpful this can be. Fighting an ulcerated tree spirit while having Scarlet Rot, this sword can single-handedly carry you through a boss fight. It has a decent range and width, and it hits any enemies in its path, not just the first one. On top of its already stacked arsenal, the ash of this weapon does significant poise damage, easily staggering a lot of bosses, such as one that many considered the toughest boss in the game, Millennia. Especially when used in pair with a Mimic tier, you will constantly stagger her while healing. A couple decent dodges and it's night-night for Miss Rock Goddess. And speaking of the Mimic, just imagine, as good as this sword is to carry you, how effective it is in the hands of a Mimic. It already has more health and damage resistance than the player. Add to that the ability to heal itself 20% with every ash hit. It really just turns into a bullying of the bosses. Now, if you feel there are any weapons that I didn't add to this list that deserve to be on it, please comment down below. Let me know why. Let me know what it is. And I'll be happy to look more into it, and maybe it'll make the next video. But until then, it's been your boy, D3D Jigsaw. As always, stay beautiful.